Hello world, my name is Dylan Avila. I'm here on behalf of TOT Sports. Give us a follow on Twitter. Check us out, and don't forget to follow me personally, Dylan Avila 92. That's Dylan with an I, not a Y. I'm just here to talk a little bit for a few minutes about hockey and the NHL and Sochi and the Leafs and see what's going on. I want to get some feedback, see what everyone else is thinking about what I have to talk about. I want to start off with the Phaneuf contract. 7 years, $7 million per year. People say that's too steep because he's making a raise from what his contract is originally. I personally do not agree with the $7 million a year, but this year he's really proven that he can make $7 million a year if he continues to go at this pace. Next year, the salary cap will go up to $71 million per year. That is an $8 million raise from what it is this year. So, if you do the math properly, $7 million per year for Phaneuf is making less than 10% of what the team's cap is. As a number one defenseman on the team, that's a huge role. That's a huge money. That's a really good deal, I guess, if you're Dave Nonis in the Toronto Maple Leafs. People say Phaneuf's not a number one defenseman. Phaneuf's a number one defenseman on Toronto. You can argue that until you're blue in the face. That's just a fact. That's just what it is. He's not going to be a number one defenseman if you go to Chicago, obviously, or other teams who have their number one defenseman. But in Toronto, he is a number one defenseman. I also don't believe Phaneuf's playing with a partner that can handle playing against number one opposition's number one lines. In Carl Gunnarsson. I believe Carl Gunnarsson is maybe a third, fourth defenseman at best. I don't believe he's a number two defenseman, but to each his own about that. We're here to talk about Phaneuf. I do like the contract. I think it helps out a lot. He's a leader. He logs big time minutes, 25 plus minutes a game. He can play power play. He can play penalty kill. He can do it all. And hopefully he can just keep playing the way he's playing this year moving forward so that the contract pays out and it's a good one for the Toronto Maple Leafs. A little bit going into Sochi. Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Pacific, Canada will announce their final roster going into the Sochi Olympics in February. The goaltenders haven't really changed much. The discussion hasn't changed at all. Actually, Mike Smith, Carey Price, and Roberto Luongo being those goaltenders. Mike Babcock on the defensive side says he wanted 4 right defensemen, 4 left defensemen. So if he does that, opens up a whole bunch of possibilities. On the left side, you can have Bouwmeester, you can have Vlasic. There's people who don't even talk about those players who should be talked about because they're great defensive players. Jay Bouwmeester hasn't missed a game in forever. He's doing what he needs to do. On the right side, Duncan Keith. People say PK Subban, who does play the right side, should not be on Team Canada. But personally, why should PK Subban not be on Team Canada? Last year, he won the Norris Trophy. He's one of the elite defensemen in the NHL right now. Just recently got a 4-point night against the Dallas Stars. People say he's a defensive liability. If you tell PK Subban to focus on defense, don't worry about the offense, just focus on defense, he is highly capable of focusing just on defense when you need him to focus on it. He's one of the best defensemen in the NHL, and since he's that good, you can tell him something and he'll be able to do it. Plus, he's got that offensive spark that you need him to. He plays the number one role in Montreal, plays against the opposition's number one lines on a regular day basis. So I believe he can do it, and he can also add a lot of dynamic to that power play with that slap shot from the point. On the forward side, how is Chris Kunitz even in discussion for making Team Canada? Because he's 5th in the league in scoring right now. Sidney Crosby's his centerman. Well, Sidney Crosby would be his centerman in Sochi, so it makes sense to put Chris Kunitz on Team Canada, right? No, absolutely not. You saw what happened in Boston in the series last year in the Eastern Conference Final. They shut them both down perfectly. If Chris Kunitz can play in a huge role with Sidney Crosby, why can't Patrick Sharp? Why can't other wingers that have better status like Claude Giroux, Steven Stamkos? If Chris Kunitz can get 5th in the league in points with Sidney Crosby being his centerman, imagine what Claude Giroux can do. Imagine what Steven Stamkos can do. Other centers, there's tons of wingers that can be going. Corey Perry of the Ducks,